What is up, everybody? What's popping? Welcome to the Fleaflicker NFL Show episode. I believe it's actually episode 30. So round of applause to me, you and Amal. I'm joined by my co-host Amal Ronak. What's up, Amal?
What's up, Arib? Lots to talk about today. We're going through the AFC side now of our over-under totals, and looking forward to see what you give my Indianapolis Colts and the rest of the conference. Looking forward to that.
Quick question before we hop into this. We're going to hop into news as well because we always hop into news. But do you remember what you gave the Philadelphia Eagles, my team, last week? Was it over or under? Because as you can see, the odds right here are 9.5.
You had them at. I put them over. I said they'd win 10. You put them under and said they'd win 9. That's what you
Correct. Okay.
Yeah.
I just keep it in mind that you were higher on them than I was when I ranked the Colts.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna most likely be higher. Yeah, but we'll see. We'll keep going. We'll figure it out. All right.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we can hop into news and just in general. There isn't much news going on right now. You know, the season's less than 7 days away now. Starts on, I believe, the 10th. So we're 6 days away. We're recording this on Friday, September 4th. It's already September. That's crazy. So yeah, the only news I really have is just Jacksonville, just playing on Jacksonville. I want to hear your opinions on Jacksonville and the moves they made the last week before I get into mine.
So it's very clear that their tank for Trevor Lawrence is for real. I think they are the worst team in the NFL. I mean, you'll find out once we give you their over and under. It's quite crazy what they're doing. They don't have Minshew's not even a bad QB, but it's like just the weapons around Minshew is just now so minimal. Now even Raquel Armstead's now on the reserve list. That's their running back one. Their running back now is Chris Thompson, and like you can't trust that guy. And DJ Chark's their offense. It's scary times right now for Jacksonville. And I read a stat: 10 out of 11 people on the starting lineup on that Saxonville defense, they're all gone.
The only one that's left is Avery Jones, I believe.
10 out of 11. Dude, that happened 3 years ago?
Yep, 2017.
Yeah, that was the year the Eagles. That was the year the Eagles won. Yeah, are you serious? Like, how does that happen in 3 years? I mean, that's just like my initial thoughts on it. And I think they under the compensation they got for Fournette was peanuts. They cut him. No one even wanted a 7th round pick for Fournette. They were willing to give him up for anything, and they didn't get anything for him. That's crazy. Yannick Ngakoue, in the middle of the season, teams were asking for two first-round draft picks for Ngakoue, and teams were willing to give it, and they still said no. And now they finally decided to trade him, and they didn't get what they wanted. They get it the second. Like, it's just, I mean, it's poorly run by Shahid Khan and Tom Coughlin. It's a very poorly ran organization, and clearly looks like they're in the rebuild phase of the franchise.
So Amal, not to burst your bubble, but Tom Coughlin actually got fired around a year ago. So this isn't Tom Coughlin's football team anymore, but the GM there is slightly messing things up. I don't know. Do you mind looking it up? Actually, like I definitely know the name.
I definitely did think Tom Coughlin. Oh wait, no, yeah, I do remember. David Caldwell is the GM.
David Caldwell.
I thought, Tom Coughlin, was he fired or did he step down?
I believe he was relieved of his duties or whatever it was last offseason. But you know, that just shows you how little we know about the Jags because they're literally irrelevant. So I'm going to jump into my opinions real quickly. So first of all, Doug Marrone is on the hot seat. So Doug Marrone is obviously not trying to tank here. The football players themselves, they're not actively trying to tank because, you know, they need to make money. They need to get another contract, all of that. Like Gardner Minshew, he's not trying to tank. His job
He's
is
not trying
to
to lose his job. Yeah.
Yeah, his job is to make a starting roster. And the fact that right now, here's a weird analogy, I guess I could give. So you're building a house, right? Then you're just doing your thing, and then instead of helping the builder and giving him all the supplies he needs, you just sort of, take away his hammer, take away his nails, take away his screws, take away his wood, take away his concrete, taking away everything. And I know I kind of rambled on there with a lot of analogies, but that's how many players they've given up over the last like year and a half ish. Like they traded away Jalen Ramsey this last season. They lost AJ Boy in free agency. They lost Malik Jackson in free agency. They, just traded away Yannick. And Yannick, a second and a conditional fifth, which I believe goes to a third round pick if both Yannick makes the Pro Bowl and the Vikings win the Super Bowl, not make it. So you're essentially trading him for a second and fifth. And like you said, that's pretty, due-to compensation. But they're obviously tanking here. And this is from David Caldwell himself. He's trying to, blow up the team. And I feel bad for Minshew personally because, I want him to make a starting roster. I'm really high on Gardner Minshew, actually. I don't think a lot of people are. But all the Jags game and films I watched last year, like he just impressed me. And I feel like they're taking away his tools, and that could eventually lead to him, not even being a starting QB because he, couldn't make the best out of his opportunity, which you can't blame him because the team is being imploded around him. And right now, I want to say it's either 4 or 5 out of the 22 starters on offense and defense for that 2017 Jacksonville team are not there anymore. Like that to me is just extremely telling.
Oh, on both sides. Damn. 4. Damn. That's very scary. Well, Bortles was a good one to leave though, so that's fine.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but yeah, Tom Coughlin. Yeah, I got that one wrong. But even their current GM, he's clearly he's trying to run that Sam Hinkie Sixers trust the process type of move. Clearly, that's what it looks like. They're gonna tank for a long time. I think they won't be good anytime soon. I think you can agree with that too. But Trevor Lawrence is the real deal, in my opinion. And if they do pick him, then I would expect great things out of him. But I agree. I feel bad for Gardner Minshew because he's also a good QB. He's arguably right alongside Kyler Murray as one of the best rookie QBs last year. So it's quite sad that even with the weapons he has, the team could have like 3-4 wins, and he'd still lose his job because they'll probably draft one of the best talents we've seen. And yeah, I find that quite sad. All right, let's go into the news. You also, more news, I should say. You broke the Yannick Ngakoue trade. I barely, talked about Fournette. I didn't say where he was going to, but I think everyone knows by now based on like Instagram. Leonard Fournette is with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on a $4 million deal. I think this is a good move for him. Right now, obviously, he won't be starting. Ronald Jones is the starter. But I definitely see him starting within after the first month of football or so. And yeah, great pickup. Tom Brady, Leonard Fournette, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Rob Gronkowski, OJ Howard. That offense is scary, man. And their backup running backs, LaShawn McCoy, Keyshawn Vaughn. Pretty crazy team, man. I don't know. What do you think, Reed?
So I actually like this move for a few reasons, right? I think Ronald Jones is probably a better pass catcher than Fournette. So if you want to put out, pass catcher, boom, put out Ronald Jones. You're not expecting much from Fournette from that aspect of the game. He's not, the best screen receiver. You have players like Derrick Henry who are similar to him in size, but they're not. Well, they're way better at taking screen passes to the house and all that. But Leonard Fournette's a really good thumper, and if you wanted to come out late in the game and drain out some clock, like imagine week 1, Tom Brady Drew Brees just, is about to take the lead and boom, throws a pick or whatever it is, and You got Leonard Fournette trotting out there for, an extremely OP offense, like you said. What do you think is going to happen? He's just going to run out all the clock. And I think he fits really well with sort of almost a Patriots style, even though it's the Buccaneers. Like the Patriots have always had, and Tom Brady has always had like those big bruisers, Think back to like someone like LeGarrette Blount. And Leonard Fournette's just a way better LeGarrette Blount, in my opinion. He's not the most efficient back, but that offense and defense in general, we talked about it last week, but they just got even better. And honestly, if I'm the Saints right now, this is probably your last ride. They're about to lose a lot of players. But the Buccaneers are going to challenge not only this year, but I could easily see them win the division next year, depending on what happens to New Orleans. So watch out for Tampa Bay.
Agreed. Yeah, I think New Orleans is screwed next year. I think Breeze will retire in the next year. Lucky for the Saints if he stays for another year, but that's max. But yeah, great points that you brought up for the Bucs. I guess we can bring up, starting positions. We didn't think Trubisky would prevail, but guess what, man? He prevailed. The bum Trubisky got the job, and I guess they didn't see him as a bum. What are your thoughts on that?
Few thoughts. A, he actually improved. B, Nick Foles sucks. Or C, Nick Foles is just so trash that Mitch Trubisky is somehow better. Those are the three possible solutions. And I'm going to give Mitch the benefit of the doubt. Like, he hasn't had the best career. He hasn't really improved mentally on the mental side of the game. Like, I think he's okay, like, on the physical side. Like, he's not the most accurate quarterback, but he's definitely, like, semi-passable. But the mental side is where I want to see work. So maybe sitting at home, being quarantined for 3-4 months really helped him in that aspect. And I hope it did, because I want only success for Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, same here. I think those are the three possible options. I think Mitch Trubisky definitely had to have gotten better. He had to have known, okay, these guys are really trying to take my job away. I need to really prove my worth on this team and step it up. And I think that's clearly what he's doing right now by winning this job. So kudos to him for that. And yeah, also Josh Gordon signing with the Seahawks. We're waiting for his reinstatement. Got some pretty minor news. Cam Newton winning his starting job with the Patriots.
Yeah, that's not shocking at all. I'm happy Cam's getting like the opportunity right out of the gate, because spoiler, he might be my comeback player of the year for our next podcast episode.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I think he's definitely got a good chance at winning it. And yeah, AP getting cut. I think that's pretty minor.
That was pretty shocking, actually, for me. I saw that this morning, and they had Peyton Barber, they had Bryce Love. I believe they had like J.D. McKissick, Antonio Gibson, but none of those are like bell cow running backs. And I feel like AP, even at his ripe old age of 72, actually he's 35, still pretty old, but he's like still a pretty functional running back. That was a shocking release for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. Adrian Peterson has brought a lot to the Redskins franchise for sure. I think you can definitely agree with that. I think he's definitely going to sign somewhere else, the team that's in need of a running back. I wouldn't be surprised if New England was his next destination, because they are very in need of running back right now. Damian Harris is hurt. Sony Michel, I mean, like he's I don't know what he's doing, Sony Michel, but I don't even know if he's a definitive win for his job. So yeah, I think that would be a good fit for him for sure. And lastly, I think this is the last thing I'd want to talk about. What are your thoughts on Jadeveon Clowney? There's a lot of different rumors that the Saints are going after him, the Titans are going after him, and for some reason, going back to this crappy franchise, the Jacksonville Jaguars are going after him too. Thoughts on?
So first of all, the Jaguars going after him makes little sense to me. Like, I mean, you're imploding your team, so trading away some of your picks for someone who, in my opinion, isn't even better than a player like Yannick Ngakoue. I think Yannick is definitely better than Jadeveon Clowney, at least at
Facts.
rushing the passer. And I just don't see an improvement there. Like, it's just pointless. But the Jadeveon Clowney story in general is extremely interesting because he keeps asking for like a boatload of money, like $17 million a year. Like he's maybe worth $8 million at this point. Like he's always been injured. He's missed some games and he doesn't get sacks. And like, if you're paying an elite defensive player, I want them to, you know, sack the quarterback. It's what I want to pay them the big bucks for. And he hasn't done that. And I heard, I don't know if you saw this as well, but the Cleveland Browns offered him a ton of money, like $17 million a year. And he just didn't take it. Like, what are you doing? Like, it's Cleveland. You're pairing up with Myles Garrett, who's going to get a ton of sacks. You'll probably end up single teamed, which you don't normally get because you're, again, a pretty good disruptor, if anything. And I just don't understand the move at all for Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah, 17 to 18 million dollars a year offered for Jadeveon Clowney, and
It was
that's
a
right.
multiple year deal.
Yeah, and that's right under his would have been teammate Myles Garrett, and it didn't make any sense to me. Also because the Browns are an up and coming team for sure. They had 7 wins this year with a trash Baker, 6 or 7 wins with not a good Baker, and I think Baker Mayfield's only going to get better from here. And OBJ was underutilized, and I think he's going to be utilized more in that offense. They got Austin Hooper now. We'll see how that goes. And yeah, I'm shocked by Jadeveon Clowney not to take that offer. Also, because I think you're right. His value, I think right now, is worth about $8 million, and he's getting paid over double his value, and he turned it down immediately. So I'm wondering what the Saints or the Titans will bring really in value to him. I doubt they'll pay that much money for him. I highly doubt it. It'd be quite shocking if they paid that much. That's my last thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't really understand it. The Browns are a pretty good team, and I don't know. Any other news you want to hit on them on before we jump into the AFC over-unders?
No, I think well, this was the news throughout the week, actually. This is a news also. We completely forgot about this. Alvin Kamara was holding out. He was missing practices, and that was quite not like him. He said he was intending to attend training camp. Didn't show up to the past 3 practices, and team and people were starting to get worried of whether he'd play, and he'd just hold out the rest of the season. But later on, reports came out that they are trying to make a deal going, and they are closer and closer to getting that extension for him. And I think he deserves it because he's a great running back, and without him, the Saints offense would definitely not be in the place they would be, and as a team, they would not be in the place where they would be without Alvin Kamara. He's a very valuable piece to that offense, and looking forward to good things from him.
Yeah. Personally, I understand why he's holding him. He's a running back. They don't get paid that much, and they have a pretty low shelf life. Like Alvin Kamara could hurt his hamstring, and his entire career is pretty much over because he continuously keeps re-injuring it. And I understand why he's getting it. And if I'm the Saints, in my opinion, Alvin Kamara is like one of the best running backs in football. He's definitely probably the most elusive back in football. And he's a big part of your offense, just flat out. He catches so many passes. He's essentially your like slot wide receiver, and he gets a ton of touches on the ground. Like, I just don't see why you don't pay him. And I think they will pay him. Like, they're the Saints. They're in extremely tight financial like problems right now, but I think they'll find some space.
Yeah, agreed. I think they'll pay him eventually. Yeah, I think before the season, I would assume, but we'll see. Anyways, Arib, you want to move on to the main topic for today?
Let's go for it, man. You can start
All right.
off.
Yeah. So as you saw in the last episode, we were working on the over and unders for teams that are in an NFC. We went division by division. Check that out if you haven't in the last video. or the last podcast or wherever, however you're watching it from. And now we're going to move on to the AFC version, and we're going to go through all the AFC teams and their win total from last year and their projected win total for this year, and we'll go whether we predict it'll be over or under that projected win total. Let's get into it. We're going to start with the AFC North here. We'll start with, in my opinion, the worst team in the AFC North, despite getting the number one pick and the NFL draft in Joe Burrow. It'll be the Cincinnati Bengals. They had 2 wins. They had 2 wins last year. They had a bunch of close games, to be fair, but they only had 2 wins. This year they're projected at 5.5 wins total. Arib, what are your opinions on the Cincinnati Bengals this year? Will they go over or under 5.5 games?
So, Joe Burrow, great quarterback. I think you would not disagree with me there. I'd say he's definitely a better prospect than someone like Baker Mayfield. And I'm extremely high on Baker Mayfield as well. So I went through a Bengals deep dive. I don't think I posted it to YouTube. I might have. But anyway, the biggest holes on that team were offensive line and linebacker. And guess what they did in the draft? They drafted like 2 or 3 linebackers. And the thing is, like, if you look at them like statistically, they're 32nd in rushing attempts allowed, 32nd in rushing yards allowed per game. So that means they're not only getting rushed the most every game, like the most rush attempts allowed, but they're also rushing for the most, like allowing the most rushing yards. Like people are running it on them really well, and they aren't stopping. And it's just a continuous problem. And you're just not setting up your great pass rush. Like you have great players like Carlos Dunlap, you have Geno Atkins, you have young and up and coming players like Sam Hubbard. And in order to unleash that pretty solid pass rush, like I'd say that they're probably a top 10 pass rush, probably at the bottom of top 10, but they're pretty solid. And you can unleash them if you start stopping the run. And Jermaine Pratt, their 2018 4th round linebacker, he's the only linebacker on the roster right now who started more than, I want to say he has started like more than 8 games, period. Like the rest of them are all rookies. And just from the way I see it, I'm happy they addressed the position because before it was complete doo-doo, and now at least you're bringing in some new talent. I don't think the linebackers can get much worse. Also, their safeties led the team in tackles, like both the safeties. I believe Jesse Bates led the team in tackles, and you don't want to see that because he's a safety. Like you don't want to see your safety coming into the box making so many tackles because it means everyone else in front of him is getting beat. So I think they fixed their linebacker issue, or they at least gave it the best shot they had. And then offensive line, I think they did a pretty good job as well there. They signed Xavier Su'a-Filo from the Dallas Cowboys. Jonah Williams, who was the first-round tackle out of Alabama last year, I believe he was like a top 6 pick. He tore, I think, his Achilles last year. He's coming back. So I think you're automatically improving your offensive line at 2 spots. And I think you're gonna talk about it. But the weapons on this team are just really good. I'm going over. I think the Cincinnati Bengals are going to win 6 games. I think that's how good of a team they can be this year.
Yeah, I think they're going to be a great team as well. I think you're dead on right. I am going to bring up their weapons. Their weapons are ridiculous on this team. They have Auden Tate. That's to start with. They have Auden Tate. They have Tyler Boyd. They have T. Higgins. They have A.J. Green. And if A.J. Green plays, that man is a monster. But, I mean, we just never get to see him play. But anyways, that's an insane receiving corp there. They just re-signed Joe Mixon to a 4-year, $48 million extension. That was a great move by them as well, considering now that gives more leverage to the previous player we talked about, Kamara, too. But great move for the Bengals there. And I think now they have an improvement at quarterback. Andy Dalton was the quarterback there. They decided that the future with him is no longer with Cincinnati. And now they moved on to Joe Burrow. And I agree with you. I think as a prospect, Joe Burrow is a better QB, or was a better QB than Baker Mayfield. He's clearly proven more in the championship game that man was a monster as well. I actually have them though still going under 5.5 games. And it's because of their division mainly. They have to play the Browns twice. They have to play the Ravens twice and the Steelers twice. That's 6 games already. And their schedule still doesn't look like amazing whatsoever. They have to still play the Eagles. They have to play the Titans. They have to play the Cowboys, the Texans. Yeah, and they have to play the Colts. They still have a bunch of hard games for them. I think they can still manage to get out 5 games though, for sure. And so I will go under.
Okay, so we're both high on them. I think even winning 4 games, like doubling your wins from last year, is an improvement. I think I'm just a bit higher than you, so fair enough.
Yeah.
Next team, which team you want to move on to now?
Yeah. One more thing to add on with the Bengals.
Sure,
I think
go for it.
Zach Taylor has to prove he's gonna show his true colors, I think, as a head coach this year. And I think even though his job necessarily wouldn't be on the line, they want to see that step up. Like Cliff Kingsbury, he clearly definitely blown away everyone's expectations with the Cardinals with his performance as a head coach. And Zach Taylor can show that he's the real deal as a coach. I'm definitely going to look out for a future outlook with the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to look forward to that. And to move next, I want to move on to the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns, I was really high on the Cleveland Browns in 2019. They clearly didn't pan out. They had 6 wins last year. Their projected win total was 9. Baker Mayfield was simply the reason. And OBJ was underutilized, but I still liked what I saw from that offense because Jarvis Landry really stepped up, and I really liked how Nick Chubb was performing. Nick Chubb was playing like a top 3 running back in the league last year. He was a tank. And I don't know if you saw a lot of Instagram posts on this, but Nick Chubb is the truck machine. We thought Leonard Fournette was a truck machine. Nick Chubb is like that times 10. He's the real deal. And now they have Kareem Hunt also to back him up. Kareem Hunt was suspended for the first 8 games of the season last year, and now he's going to play hopefully the full season now right under Nick Chubb. And that's going to be a great running back tandem as well. And if Baker Mayfield improves with the new improved weapons that I should say that they have, and that defense is still stupid talented, I expect big things from the Browns. Their projected win total this year is at 8.5 wins. I'm going to slam over for that. I'm going to go 9 wins here, and I think they will get the 9 wins. Yeah, I'm going to go 9.
Okay, so I'm also going 9 wins here, so I'm going to hit the over for them. And the biggest thing for me is, will Baker get better? They got rid of the biggest problem, and you said it was Baker. I personally think that Freddie Kitchens just didn't know what he was doing as a head coach, and when he finally sort of figured it out, it was already too late. And by then, they were, not playing well. They had probably like 2 or 3 wins in their name. And I just think you got rid of that problem. And Baker, I just think, is going to come back with so much fuel. Like, this is the first time in his career he's ever been doubted. And I think people, they sort of forget like the human element of players. Like, this guy, like he's always been an underdog, walk on Texas Tech, walk on in Oklahoma. He got first overall pick rather, and no one thought he would be that. And now he finally doesn't have that chip on his shoulder. It's gone, and people are seeing him for what it is. It's his first failure. He threw over 20 picks last year, and that was more picks than he said he's thrown in his entire career, more games than he's lost in his entire career. I just think Baker Mayfield's going to come back with vengeance. They fixed the offensive line. So after losing Joe Thomas to retirement a couple years ago, they went out, signed Jack Conklin from Tennessee. Great addition. They drafted Jedrick Wills from Alabama this year with the 10th overall pick, I believe. And he's a tackle who I thought was the best tackle in this year's draft class. So you're immediately improving both those tackle spots. Linebacker for me is a huge problem. And I want to see what they do at linebacker because I don't really trust a lot of people after losing Joe Schobert. And I believe they lost Christian Kirksey as well to free agency. I want to see what they do with the linebacker position, but their D-line and their secondary is just pretty good, if not like above average. They have a defensive player of the year candidate in Myles Garrett. I agree with you. That roster is super talented. They're not like 12-4 talented. Like I don't think they're gonna go that that high, but I can definitely see 9 to 10 wins. So over for sure.
Yeah. Arib, do you think the Browns are a top 3 talented team in the NFL?
No.
Talent, top 5.
Let me
'Cause I
list some teams. So let's go through all the teams who I think are more talented. Okay. So the Cardinals, no. Falcons, no. Ravens, yes, obviously.
Ravens,
I'd
yeah.
say
Bills, no. Bills are no.
Bills. For me, the problem with the Bills are Josh Allen. But I think, I'd go yes. The Bills, I think, are a better team
No,
overall
no.
because I trust the Bills defense more than I trust the Browns offense.
No, I'm saying just based off talent. I'm not saying like I'm not saying like a better team. Like I think
Okay,
talent
okay.
wise, like
So
obviously,
Ravens for sure. Not Carolina.
I think Dallas is over them,
Dallas is over them.
and I think that
Green Bay.
Green Bay on both sides. No, they don't have receivers though, and the Browns have receivers. That's what I'm saying. They have almost
The
everything,
Browns have offensive firepower, but as
and the
overall
defense is pretty
talent,
nice, man. The defense overall talent's there. Vikings are probably over
I'd
them.
go Vikings, Saints, Chiefs for sure. So they're
Niners,
probably I'd
yeah, they're
probably go Niners. I'd probably go Eagles. They're definitely like I think top 8 team talent, like wise.
Yeah, I think that they're very extreme. I think besides the point, they're a very talented team, and if they play to their talent, they're definitely a scary team in that division. That division is crazy stacked. Even their worst team, the Bengals, they could still beat any of those 3 teams in any given day, because of
Except
Joe
maybe the
Burrow.
Ravens.
You never know, man. The Ravens lost to the Browns last year. Just remember that. Anything is possible. Yeah, I think I'm going to move on then to the Pittsburgh Steelers. A lot of people have them as a top 10 team this year. Uh, Obviously, the Big Ben injury, Ben Roethlisberger injury, definitely hindered the team. They had a time at Delvin, Duck Hodges as their quarterback, Mason Rudolph, or the helmet demented Rudolph uh, uh, was QB at a time as well. They I think this is probably one of Mike Tomlin's best coaching seasons in his career because he led a team with a nobody at QB. Connor was getting hurt as well. Connor did not have the best year whatsoever. Juju Smith-Schuster did not have the best year whatsoever. And it all got solved when they traded for Minkah Fitzpatrick last year for their first round pick. And that was the make or break pick. I think when we made the podcast last year on that, I thought that was easily the best move of that they could have made. And clearly that paid off. The Steelers' defense, arguably, you can easily make the argument they have the best defense in football. They still managed to get 8 wins. They were projected at 9. They got 8 with Ben Roethlisberger not playing the whole season. And their star players, per se, not playing to their star potential on the offensive side. Great coaching. That's why Mike Tomlin was in the discussion for Coach of the Year a lot. And yeah, now they're projected at 9.5 wins. They got Deontay Johnson now. They got and Juju Smith-Schuster. I know for a fact is going to bring back. He's going to have a good season this year, and I expect James Conner to definitely carry the workload heavily with Benny Snell Jr. as well. That running back tandem, and they're right now projected at their over-unders at 9.5 wins. I will go. This is tough for me though. I said a lot of good things about them. I'll go over. I'll put them at 10 wins. But this could go either way. I think they can go 10-6 or 9-7. But I can't see them going under that or over that actually. 9 to 10 wins. But for now, I'll
Okay.
go over.
Yeah, I'd also go over. So the biggest thing is obviously Big Ben coming back. And if Big Ben plays like even 80% of the player he was like back in 2018, this team is going to be really good. So they were the 5th team in points per game allowed. So the 5th best defense, at least like on a points per game basis. They led the league in sacks. They had the 27th offense in points per game. So you're having one of the best offenses contrasted with one of the worst. And that was solely because you had Mason Rudolph. You had whatever Dalvin Duck Hodges. And I just think that team on defense, yeah, they lost a player like Javon Hargrave to the Eagles, but they have so many great talented players. They have breakout players from Bud Dupree, Devin Bush, Joe Hayden, Terrell Edmonds, like Joe Hayden
TJ
having a
Watt.
resurgence here, TJ Watt, Defensive Player of the Year candidate, Stephon Tuitt, Cameron Hayward, like Minkah Fitzpatrick. Like that entire defense is just stacked. Like there's only 2 or 3 guys who I could see not ending up as like Pro Bowl talent players, but all those guys are still solid. Like the team on the defense side is extremely good. Offensive line is still one of the best in the league. They still have Alejandro Villanueva. They have Marquise Pouncey, DeCastro, all that. James Washington, Juju, like Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson, who broke out. I'm just extremely high on this team. I think they're a playoff lock, and I have them winning 11 games, actually. One more game than you do. They're a really great team. And if Big Ben stays healthy and plays to his potential, like I think he will. Watch out, because big things are coming from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think it will be close between them and the next team we're about to talk about, the Baltimore Ravens. I think they're definitely going to give a run for the money for Baltimore. And I think you brought up all good points for the Steelers, and let's move on to who I believe we all have for winning our division. We'll find out what you think, Arib. But it's the Baltimore Ravens with the reigning NFL MVP, Lamar Jackson, who's just a running back, right? I mean, he's been killing it, and could not play in the playoffs though. Kind of had a problem with that. The past 2 years, he's 0-2, both the first game exits, but their team got still really nice. I see Hollywood Brown making a lot of progress in this offseason. I don't know if you saw. I may have sent this to you. Did you see his diet program that he's having? He's taking
No, I haven't.
he's taking like 4,000 calories a day. It's like freaking crazy.
He's probably running for like 5 hours a day too.
Yeah, that guy's crazy, man. And I'm definitely seeing an improvement. They signed Jake. They picked J.K. Dobbins in the second round as well. That was I think to be the successor, obviously, of Mark Ingram. I think Mark Ingram's going to be really nice. But my big thing is this. I wonder, will teams figure out Lamar Jackson on offense? If that happens, then this Ravens prediction could go to waste completely. Because if teams figure out Lamar Jackson, then it could be really scary for them. Because their defense can still be really nice, but if they figure out Lamar Jackson in the run game, then he just becomes like any other ordinary quarterback. And if not, it may not even be that, because his real throwing game isn't like super, super impressive by any means. So, yeah. Regardless, I don't expect them to. So their win total projection is at 11.5 wins. I'll go under. I think they get 11 wins. Mainly because of, like I said before, the division's very competitive. And I expect them to have a couple hiccups along the way. And I do expect at least a couple defenses to stump Lamar Jackson. But besides that, yeah, I like the way this is going. Like I expect, for example, the Eagles play the Ravens. I expect the Eagles to bring a lot of pressure to him. The Browns, the Titans. There's a bunch of different teams I think that could definitely solve the Lamar Jackson riddle. And yeah, I think they go 11-5, but I can also see 12-4. But I'll go for now under 11.5 and go 11 wins. What do you think, Arif?
Okay, so I'm going to go over. I think they only improved their team. They added Calais Campbell. They drafted Patrick Queen, the linebacker from LSU, and they had pretty huge linebacker holes. They're the first offense in points per game allowed, third defense in points per game allowed. Like, I think Lamar Jackson has improved like every single year of his football career, period, as a passer. I don't see a reason that's going to stop now. And with COVID happening, like limited like defensive game planning and all that, I just think like this year, physical talent is just going to win out more than coaching. And I don't think you can really necessarily coach out someone who's as electric as a player like Lamar Jackson. So I'm going over. I think they're going to win 12 games. I think they will have a few hiccups. Like I think they're going to lose to probably the Steelers, maybe the Browns, and maybe, probably some stupid loss in there as well.
Say, come on, you forgot to say Eagles, man. Why didn't you say that? Don't come on, man.
I apologize.
Come on,
For
don't
the
be
record, so I don't get roasted, I don't think the Eagles are – you know what? Actually, the Eagles are going to beat the Ravens. That's my bold take.
There it is.
It's like a week 5 game.
Don't get scared.
The Eagles will beat the
It's at
Ravens.
home. Fans will probably be there. We'll see. But, yeah,
hopefully.
Come on. You got to be confident. But, yeah, anyways, I think you have them – how many wins do you have them at?
12, for sure.
You have them at 12? They've had 14 last year. Pretty crazy. You have them at 12. I have them at 11. I think regardless, we have them as the division winners. You have it both. We have it relatively close though. So do I. We both have 1 game difference between the Steelers and the Ravens, and definitely anything can happen in that division. Look out for those 2 teams, especially the Ravens and the Steelers. And now we'll move on to the AFC East. AFC East is basically a division, honestly, of just no interest, really. But there's Cam Newton and Josh Allen with Stephon Diggs and Tua Tagovailoa there. And we'll get more into that later now. And we're going to start with, in my opinion, the worst team in that division. And we'll start with the Miami Dolphins. They're right now at 6.5 wins over under. They had 5 wins last year when they were projected 4.5. So they exceeded their expectations, as you can say. But that's mainly because of Fitzmagic, man. Fitzmagic's the GOAT backup QB in the regular season. I mean, Nick Foles is the real GOAT backup QB. But that's besides the point. And the Dolphins, they did get Tua at the 5th pick in the draft. That was a good pick as well. I don't expect him to start immediately week 1. I expect Devontae Parker, though, to have a big breakout season this year because I do believe Tua is going to play sooner than later. I think he'll probably play by like week 5 or week 6. And then with that happening, I expect like Preston Williams and Devontae Parker and all those guys to really explode in the offensive game. And the division isn't really super competitive. So with this 6.5 win projection, I actually have them going over. I think they go 7-9. This is quite crazy, but
That's extremely bold in my opinion. I respect it. Great take.
This is also because it's like the division's not like extremely strong. We're going to talk about it. The Jets are there. The Pats are still good, but we'll talk about them too. Their defense has been depleted, and the Bills are the only like really strong team. And even them, they're definitely beatable. I mean, you can clearly see that in the first round of last year's playoffs. But yeah, I really like Tua, man. And we talked about him a lot entering into the draft. I was really high on him. You were really high on him. I think if Tua didn't get injured, you could have. And Alabama beat LSU, we could easily be talking about Tua going number 1 and not Joe Burrow because Tua was the lock number 1 pick entering into last year's college football season. So I expect great things. And Tua's healthy now, especially. And now I saw a report today that Josh Rosen is going to get is in trade talks already. Poor guy. I feel bad for him.
I think they released him just now, like an hour ago.
Oh, they released him. Damn, that's even worse. Ouch. Yeah, but I expect nice things out of the Browns. I mean, out of the Dolphins. They played New England to start. I think any game against New England is definitely winnable. Actually, they split, I think, against New England because even with Tom Brady, they'd always lose 1 game to the Dolphins. For some reason, I don't know why. The Bills are going to be tough. They do play the Seattle Seahawks and the Niners. That's going to be tough. But yeah, I like the way the schedule's going. I'm confident enough they can beat like the Raiders. They could beat the Bengals, the Jets twice. The Jets once even is fine. They could beat like maybe like a Broncos, a Jacksonville team, split with the the Pats, and even split with the Bills, and that can get you to 7 wins. And yeah, I definitely think it's possible to see this Dolphins team get 7 wins. But if Tua doesn't play the entire season, I can easily see them going down to what they had last year, 5. Maybe they'd go to 6. That's my prediction. So I'm going to go over.
Okay, so a quick question for you, right? We're going to do a little bit of a game. So whose offense do you think had more points per game? Sam Darnold's or Ryan Fitzpatrick's?
I'm going to be honest. I think it was Sam Darnold.
Nope. Sam Darnold, the Jets. Overall, the Jets went 31st in points per game. So I took out the 4 games that Sam Darnold missed for mono, because apparently you have 22-year-old adults out getting mono out here. And they were still 26th, right below the Dolphins, who were the 25th best offense in 2019. And that was with Josh Rosen on the field for like 2 or 3 games.
Damn, that's close.
I think if Josh Rosen wasn't there, we could be talking about the Dolphins as maybe the 20th best offense in football. They were, I don't know if you remember this, but back in like October, what we were saying about the Dolphins, we were saying they're tanking. Here you are saying they're going to win 7 games. Now, I don't think they're winning 7 games at all. They still don't have as much talent as I think they will, as I think they do. But I think you're going to see a Dolphins team that isn't getting blown out 45-0, 37-0. They're not losing games by like 2 scores. You're going to see a Dolphins team that, even if Ryan Fitzpatrick is playing, which I think he will play like most of the games over Tua, you're going to see them, losing 1 possession games. So I think they're going to go like 5-11, 6-10, still under the 6.5 wins total we have here. But I think you're going to see a Dolphins team that is going to have a good 6-10, 5-9, 5-11 season.
Yeah, I think I already said this. If Fitzpatrick's playing the full season, I'll go under. But I expect Tua to come in at some point. And they did have 5 wins last year, so I definitely think they improved with the moves Brian Flores and that team's making. And yeah, they did get rid of Kalen Ballage. But so what? They have Jordan Howard and Matt Breida. Those are great backs. And yeah, I mean, their defense, is okay. Their offense is okay. I think their defense is their division's trash. So anything is definitely possible. And that's why I'm gonna boldly take the over pick here. And yeah. And we'll move on to the team that I have just maybe ahead of them, maybe not, the New York Jets. They're projected at 7 wins. They were a team that some people may even have as the sleeper team in the AFC because of Sam Darnold. People really see a lot of potential in this guy. And it's not because of his mononucleosis. It's because of the offense that they have. And I expect Le'Veon Bell to improve a lot this year, but it's still not looking that impressive. They have Jamison Crowder, Brashad Perriman, and Chris Hogan as their wide receivers. Let's not forget the receivers we were both extremely high on. Denzel Mims there as well. They have Le'Veon Bell, Frank Gore, and they have Joe Flacco as the backup for mentorship as well. And they picked Mekhi Becton. Mekhi Becton I'm also really high on. But yeah, I really like this Jets team, man. I'm not gonna go over here, and I'm also not gonna go under here. I'm gonna push it at 7 games. I think they'll go 7-9 exactly, because I see something in them, man, and it's quite bold here as well, because normally I think of Jets and the Dolphins as like trash teams, but I mean, this division is like really bad, and anyone could honestly win it. The Bills may be really, really nice, but I mean, it's their QB still Josh Allen, who's a question mark. he's still like he's really good when he's like on, but he's also like how often is he on? And their defense is good too, but we'll get more into that too. But yeah, I'm gonna push it here and I'll go 7 games. I don't think they'll go over or under. I think they could reach exactly that.
So I'm going to go push as well. I'm leaning under. And that's solely because I think Sam Darnold is going to play good football, but I think he's just going to be held back by Adam Gase. And okay, so Sam Darnold, when he came back, he played 12 games, okay, after his mononucleosis. What was their record in those 12 games?
Repeat that? What?
So after Sam Darnold came back from his illness, he played 12 games. What do you think their record was in those 12 games?
Well, I'm assuming they went 0-4 without him, so I'm assuming he went 7-5 because they went
Yep,
7-9 last year. So
7-5.
yeah.
So they're definitely possible. Like I could definitely see them being a winning team. I think losing CJ Mosley is a pretty big loss for them, but they lost him last year's year. The biggest question for me is will Quinnen Williams, the 3rd overall pick of last year's draft, will he actually have a bounce back year? I think that's extremely possible. Like it takes a while for defensive linemen to get adjusted, especially, a player like Quinnen Williams. He has all the physical attributes, but he has to learn the game and catch up to the NFL speed of it. I think you're going to see a big season for him. And similar to the Dolphins, I think I had the Dolphins winning 5 games. I think I can see the Jets here winning 7 games, and it's going to be a good 7-9. But I still think Adam Gase is going to get fired. But you're not going to see them get blown out as often. Like you're probably going to see them have maybe an extra 1 or 2, maybe even 3 closer endings where they end up losing, but it's probably like on a last-second failed drive or like a last-second losing field goal or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think you're going to see a lot of closer games with the Jets, and we both have them staying the same from last year to this year, but that doesn't necessarily mean the team got worse. It's just like it's just how the cookie crumbles. Next, we're going on with the New England Patriots here. New England Patriots here are right now projected at 9 wins, and they now announced, like we had said before, Cam Newton as their starting quarterback. I'm excited for this. I'm actually a big Cam Newton fan. I wasn't like actively rooting for him when they played the Broncos in the Super Bowl, but I really like the guy. I felt like he got screwed over in Carolina, but that's besides the point. I think he's a great QB. He won the job fair and square. He beat out Brian Hoyer, Jarrett Stidham. Clearly, Stidham, I guess, isn't ready to take that starting position. And with Cam Newton only having such a little time with the Pats offense and their plays and time to develop the relationships with coordinators and the head coach, clearly shows that Cam Newton is miles above the competition. And I expect Cam Newton to ball out. And we're going to go into a later podcast episode on our award predictions. And I think both of us are very high on Cam Newton, especially for one of the awards. But yeah, I look out for great things there. They're projected at 9 wins. I think they push it. I think they get 9 wins exactly. And they had 12 last year with Brady, but the defense last year was insane. This year, the defense is depleted because a lot of players are opting out. And it's hard to replace those players that are opting out, man. And you just have to wait for them the next year. So I'll go at 9 wins exactly. They'll be 9-7.
So I'm going to go over, leaning push. I think they're going to go like 9 to 10 wins. I'm going to go over just for one reason, and his name is Bill Belichick. I just can't see him losing more than 10 games. Like, I don't know when the last time he did that in his career was. It's probably like 15, maybe 20 years ago, but I don't think it's happening today. And until it does happen, I'm just not going to bet against him. You did mention a ton of good points. They lost Trey Flowers last year. They lost Daron Harmon, Patrick Chung, Dante Hightower to opt-outs, Tom Brady, obviously. They've lost a lot of players. Like, this isn't the same Patriots team, but I'm not going to bet until Bill Belichick until I have to. So I'm going to say 10 wins over.
Fair enough. Yeah. But the team definitely has taken a slight step back. But Cam Newton, you can make the argument he might be playing at a higher level than Brady was playing with New England this past year. So we're going to see how that goes there. And we'll go with our prediction, who I believe is our prediction to be the best team in the AFC East. And arguably, maybe even one of the best teams, or should I say one of the favorites in the AFC altogether. We have the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills were a great team last year itself. They were pushing the Pats hard to win the division. They finished 10-6. The Pats finished 12-4, still relatively close. The Bills exceeded everyone's expectations last year. They were projected at 7.5 wins and clearly beat that. I really like how Josh Allen played throughout the season, but as I said before, he is quite inconsistent. But man, he's got an arm, and now he has the receivers to really use it with Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs is going to be a very valuable asset to that offense. And now with Devin Singletary there and Zach Moss, I expect them to be splitting as well. That offense and the running game is going to be really nice, especially with Josh Allen becoming he's quite mobile. He's more mobile than the average quarterback. So I like the offense, and the defense. I can't even explain. It's just a great defense, and I expect them to dominate, especially against the offenses that they're against in the division. But I'm high on the Bills. Their projected win total is 9 wins. I think they kill that. They will destroy 9 wins, and they'll win the division.
Yeah, I think they're going to go 11-5. I think you hit on a lot of points I wanted to talk about. They're the only 23rd offense. They were only the 23rd offense last year, 19.6 points per game scored. But they were the second best defense in points per game allowed, with 16.5. And I don't really see that continuity just ending. I think Sean McDermott is clearly a top 10 head coach, and we went over that in our head coach video over the summer. And I'm just extremely bullish on this team. I think you're going to see them jump up, and they're probably going to average like 23 points per game, and they're going to be winning more games. I'm high on this team, 11-5, and I have them winning the division as well.
Yeah, I could see 11 wins. I could even see 12 wins, honestly, from this team. This team, I'm very, very.
They pull Chicago Bears from 2018. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean they got 10 last year. Quite shocking that they're projecting 1 under. Maybe because the Pats they think got better, or the rest of the division got better. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna take 10 wins. I'm gonna take over 9 wins, I should say, and I'll take also 11 wins to maybe even 12 wins. That wraps up the AFC East, and next we'll go on to the AFC
West,
and that is with my homeboys division. We're going to start with, in my opinion, the worst team in the division. Actually, there's you could go both. I think this is the worst team that's still in the division. I think it's the Los Angeles Chargers. Mainly because their QB situation isn't super stable. They have Tyrod Taylor currently as listed as the QB1. But I definitely also expect that to change. I think as Baker overtook Tyrod in his rookie year, I think Herbert's going to overtake Tyrod sooner rather than later. Their defense is still really nice, but the Derwin James injury hurts them. But I'm going to go. Their projection right now is 7.5 games. They had 5 last year. That really hurts. They did not play very well last year altogether, mainly because they were not expecting Melvin Gordon to hold out as long as he did. And when he came back, he didn't show his worth whatsoever, which obviously showed in the value that he was given with this new money. So I'm going to go here under 7.5 wins. I think they get 6. And I think they go 6-10 this year. And that's with, I think Justin Herbert's going to play the second half of the season. That's the main reason. And Tyrod, I don't expect great things out of him, I'll be honest. But I really like Austin Ekeler, I think, or Eckler, however you pronounce his name. He's a great running back.
Ekeler, I've never heard that one before.
Ekeler. Yeah, I don't know. I have him on my fantasy team in one of my leagues. He's a great player. I like him. Keenan Allen, another great receiver. Mike Williams, lots of great weapons around them. Hunter Henry. Now he was out most of the year last year, and having him back for the full year would be beneficial to that offense. Defensively, though, like we said before, Derwin James being out hurts them a lot. But overall, their defense is still nice with Joey Bosa and them boys, and Melvin Ingram, of course. But yeah, I'm gonna go under 7.5 wins this year.
Yeah, so I'm also going to do that, and I think their roster overall is extremely talented, but I'm not high on either of their quarterbacks, Tyrod Taylor and the sixth overall pick, Justin Herbert. I just don't see how it's going to happen. Yeah, it's pretty simple. I'm just not high on the quarterbacks, and quarterback is the most important position on the field. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I think you can leave it there. I don't see it either. Move on. The Las
Las
Vegas Raiders.
Vegas. Yep.
Dude, their stadium is the sickest stadium. I'm sorry. I think I've ever seen in photos. That stadium is too cool. It's like dark night black, beautiful. Yeah, they're right now projected at 7.5 wins this season. Last year they had 7. Derek Carr, he he I expect good things out of him, not great things, but I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about the Las Vegas Raiders. They just lost Tyrell Williams to the full year, who was initially their wide receiver 1, and now he's on the season-ending IR. The receivers now are Ruggs, their first-round pick, Hunter Renfrow, Brian Edwards. I'm not necessarily that's quite an unstable receiving core, honestly. You're going to put Ruggs immediately at the wide receiver 1. I don't necessarily know how he's going to really flourish there. But I think Darren Waller is the real deal. I think he's a great tight end. He's honestly more of a wide receiver than a tight end. He was killing it with the Raiders last year. Derek Carr and Waller connections were great to watch. Expect great things out of Josh Jacobs. Their O-line is also not bad. They have Trent Brown. They have Incognito, Rodney Hudson. They still got some great weapons there. Their defense isn't bad either. They got Cleveland Farrell. They got Jonathan Abram coming back from that Achilles injury I believe he had last year. He was a star in the HBO series as well. This is tough. I think they go 8-8. I think they'll go 8-8 because I think the new environment's going to definitely help them. Obviously, there's not going to be any fans, but they also got Corey Littleton. I forgot to add that. They drafted Damon Arnett as well. Yeah, I'm gonna go over 7.5. I think they go to 8 wins.
So I'm gonna go under, and I think the biggest problem here is I think they've improved as a team, but even though I think Carr is a good quarterback, I just don't think he fits John Gruden. Like, I think they'll each have like great success like apart from each other, but I don't think John Gruden's QB, like his ideal QB, is Derek Carr, and I just don't think he's gonna suddenly pop off and be amazing year 3. Like, I just don't see it happening. So I'm gonna go under. I think they're gonna win 7 games again, and like they won last year. And I think again they're probably gonna be more competitive, but I'm just not seeing the Derek Carr, John Gruden connection. And I think Derek Carr might end up going somewhere else next year, and I think he's going to end up doing really well. I actually had them drafting Jordan Love this year. I don't know if you remember that in our mock draft video.
Yes,
That's
you did.
who I had them going with.
Yeah.
And I just think someone like Jordan Love or just any QB might have fit John Gruden's system a little bit more, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think if Derek Carr doesn't pan out this year, I could easily see them trading up for one of the good QBs for the next year's draft. But yeah, like maybe like Fields out of Ohio State, Justin Fields out of Ohio State,
Trey Lance out of NDSU,
Trey Lance out of North Dakota State University. But Yeah, I agree. Definitely, if this doesn't work out, and I think you're right, the system may not be perfect for him. Right now, they have Marcus Mariota, who's quite maybe he could pull a Tannehill. I doubt it, but yeah, I'm not really high. And they got my boy Nathan Peterman. You're very high on him. I know that. So we're gonna now go to obviously our favorites to win the division. The 12-4. Oh, actually, not yet. We're gonna go with a team that I completely looked over. Denver Broncos. Um, they're another team I'm very high on. Their receiving core got way better this past offseason with the draft. They drafted they drafted let's see they drafted Jerry Jeudy, they drafted KJ Hamler, great offensive weapons for them. Yeah, I really like this team, and Drew Lock I expect to get way better on the offensive side, and on the defensive side I expect them to also get better because Jarrell Casey was a big signing, and that was big. I think also their team's nice because of Bradley Chubb, Von Miller, the boys. They were there last year too, but I'm just saying, like, I think their defense is still really good. Their offensive weapons only got better. They got Melvin Gordon, obviously. We talked about him before. He's the clear running back one. But, I mean, you got Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman as well as your running back depth. That's pretty crazy. And, yeah, I'm high on this team. They're right now projected over-under is at 7.5 wins. I say they go over that, and I think they go to 9. I think they go 9-7. This Broncos team is going to be really competitive this year with Drew Lock, and I'm high on him. That's the truth of it. I think he's a good quarterback, and I think that's the QB the Broncos need. And yeah, that's.
Yeah, so my thoughts on the Broncos, I'm smashing it over. I think they're going to win 9 games. I just think they lost Bradley Chubb last season to injury. He's another baller. Like, their defense is still really good, even though they lost Chris Harris. They signed Kareem Jackson. They signed, like you said, Jarrell Casey. You have Bradley Chubb coming back from injury. I just really like the team in general. Like, you talked about all the offensive weapons. I think the defense is equally as talented, maybe even more talented. I just think this team is going to win 9-7 games, and they're my dark horse Super Bowl candidate in the AFC. Actually, I said it. Spoiler alert for next week, but I'm really high on this team.
Yeah, I am too. Definitely would not shock me if they made the playoffs. The 7.5 win projection, I would be honest, is quite low. Yeah, I definitely would be scared of this team if I played them in the playoffs because that defense is scary, and the weapons they have on offense is quite frankly also scary to see as well. But clearly their offense can't be as scary as our number one team in our division. That we have is the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City Chiefs last year had 12 wins, even with the Mahomes injury, missing about 2 games. We don't need to really talk about Chiefs really. They did draft Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the last pick of the first round. That was a great signing, especially now that Damian Williams is opting out of the season. So now their running backs are Darrell Williams and CEH. So I'm high on them. Their over/under total is 11.5 wins. They'll go over. I think they match what they did last year, 12 wins. I think they go 12-4. And I think Mahomes is going to have a great year again this year. And I can't wait for their game Thursday night against the Houston Texans.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's Thursday night. We're recording this again. It actually is Saturday morning now. It's been over an hour since we started recording. Great podcast we have here going, by the way. Again, we don't need to talk about it. I agree with you. They're winning 12 games easy.
Yeah, and then now, last but not least, we'll go to my favorite division, the AFC South. Actually, it's not my favorite division. It's just my favorite teams in that division. But
Thanks for
whatever. And
clarifying. I was about to say the
it could,
division's pretty
it could
boring.
it could arguably be very exciting though in the later weeks of the season because there's a lot of teams that are very close to each other, and there's I would say, no clear-cut favorite for winning the division. I'm obviously going to be biased, so I'm going to say the Colts, but you never know. The Titans are there, the Texans are there, and those two teams could easily take it from them. And yeah, we'll move on. We're going to start with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Their win total is at 4.5. We already talked about them a lot earlier, so I'm not going to waste your time and talk about them more. They're 4.5 games. I'm definitely going to go under 4.5 games. They had 6 last year, but now losing Leonard Fournette is basically losing a star on the team. Yannick Ngakoue is another star you're just losing. You're just like throwing them away at this point. Yeah, they'll go 3-13 or 4-12. Yeah, I'm very low on the Jags. Think they'll be the worst team in the NFL. No competition to the remaining 3 teams in this division.
Yeah, I think they're going to win the Tank Bowl for going 4-10. And it's sad to say, like I said earlier in the show, but I think that's just the rough reality. And yeah, like you said, they gave away everybody. 4-12. I'm going under as well.
Yeah, I think this is definite. If I'd be shocked if they get 5 wins. Let's put it that way. Next, I think this is the second worst team in the division, and this is a high second worst team. I have the Houston Texans. Houston Texans as much as I talk crap about Bill O'Brien as a GM, that man can coach still. He's a good coach. I have nothing against him as a coach. He brings out great plays for Deshaun Watson. They did in that DeAndre Hopkins trade get David Johnson, and they did sign Brandon Cooks. Their receiving core is still nice. They got Will Fuller, they got Kiki Kuti, they got now Brandon Cooks, as I said before. But I don't know, man. The team's clearly not the same as it once was. I expect Deshaun Watson to get better because he does have better weapons, but they didn't address. It's just still not there for me. So I'm gonna go. They didn't address really that many needs in the draft, so I'm gonna go under. I mean, their projections at 7.5 wins. I think they'll go 7-9. I think they go under, and that is what I think.
Okay, so I'm smashing over here, and I'm changing. I'm pulling an audible right now, like live on air. But I think they're gonna win. I think they're gonna win 9 games, and I think they're gonna do it pretty convincingly. So, DeAndre Hopkins, great wide receiver, top 3 wide receiver. People are acting like just because they lost DeAndre Hopkins, they lost everyone. Like J.J. Watt's gone, Ross Blacklock, like they just drafted him, they traded him away, they traded away, Laramie Tunsil. Like they still have good players on offense. Yeah, Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb, they're no DeAndre Hopkins, but when you have a player like Deshaun Watson, who I think is like a top 6 quarterback, top 7, maybe even top 5, according to some people, I expect them to go out there and bail you out. And I think he's going to do that every week, and they're going to win 9 games. I just think he's going to be on the Russell Wilson path. And the team is still talented. Like they didn't lose a lot of key members. Like they still very much have, the core on the defensive side, and minus Hopkins, like they still have Deshaun Watson on offense. So like, I just don't see how they're going to lose more than 9 games. I think that's a lock for me. I'm going to lock in 9 games. I think this is my lock of the AFC. If the Texans don't win 9 games, I will be extremely shocked.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from because they're the type of team that can range. I think for sure their win total. I have them personally at 7, but I could easily see them get 9, 8, 10. It's definitely possible. They had 10 last year, but I think the Colts are obviously way better than they were from last year to this year, and I think the Titans, their regular season performance can be way better from last year to this year. So I can't see That's why I mean, and the Texans definitely got worse this year. And you are right. It's not like they lost their entire offense or their entire defense. It's just they lost a lot of major pieces, and they're getting replaced with some average to slightly above average pieces. David Johnson is a good replacement. I am not going to lie. I think David Johnson, if he balls out, then I could easily see them get 9 wins easily. I think that's a very easy thing to accomplish with a great great running back. But David Johnson is also injury prone. He hasn't had a successful season in like 3 years or 4 years. It's been quite some time. He lost his job to Kenyon Drake. Yeah, I'm not that confident in him, I'll be honest. So that's why I have them at under 7.5 and have them at 7 wins. And the next team is the AFC Championship finalists, the AFC Conference finalists. I think we have the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans, they were a great team last year in the playoffs. Tannehill basically did nothing, though, I'll be honest. It's mainly Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry did get extended this offseason. Kudos to him. They did lose Jarrell Casey, like we talked about in that Denver thing. But the Titans are still a nice team. They're definitely still a threat to win the division. They have definitely the weapons. A.J. Brown, I think, is definitely going to step up this year. He's going to be a lot better. I don't know if Derrick Henry's going to explode like he did last year for the last, 12 games of the season. In the last 8 games, I don't know if you saw – you definitely probably know this, but the last 8 regular season games alone, he had 1,000 yards rushing. And that's not going to happen again. That's definitely not happening again. And if it does happen again, they'll definitely win the division. But I can't see that happening. So I'm going to go their projections at 8 wins, I believe.
It's 8.5 on here.
8.5? Yeah. I'm going to go over. I think they get to 9 wins. They'll get to – they can go 9 or 10. I'm stuck on that. They could go I think they go 9-7, but that's mainly because I don't trust Tannehill still as much as he's getting paid for, or as the Titans trust him for. So that's just the main reason. But their defense is still quite nice. Their O-line is still pretty good. Derrick Henry's still good. Yeah, I'm still looking forward to good things from this team, and a very competitive team towards my favorite team, the Colts.
Yeah, so I'm also smashing the over here. I think they're going to win 10 games. And again, similar to my Texans pick, I think that's a lock. The talent here is amazing. The culture is pretty good. Everything overall is really good. I think Ryan Tannehill is definitely the biggest question mark. And if he plays as well as I think he will, I think he's going to come out and he's not going to be flashy, but I think he's going to get the job done. And that's all you really want if you're the Titans. They're just sort of that team, I don't think they're going to be flashy. They're not going to blow many teams out, but they're going to just grind out some yards with Derrick Henry, come up with some clutch third down passes from Ryan Tannehill. And at the end of the season, they're going to be they actually end up winning 10 games somehow. And they might even win a wild card spot or maybe even the division. Who knows? But I just think I see the Titans being the best team in this division personally. So I think going over is where I'm going with my pick here.
Okay, and the last team that we have is, of course, my favorite team, the Indianapolis Colts. Their major acquisitions, they acquired the major one is Phillip Rivers, of course, replacing Jacoby Brissett as the starting quarterback for the team. They signed Xavier Rhodes from the Minnesota Vikings. They just extended Ryan Kelly to become the highest paid center in the league. I think that's well deserved. That O-line just needs to keep on getting paid because that O-line is easily top 2 in the league, maybe even top 1. I think that O-line is crazy stacked. They got Jonathan Taylor in the second round and Michael Pittman in the second round. 2 great offensive weapons for Phillip Rivers. I expect Marlon Mack to start the year. But the defense definitely got way better. This is not a Colts defense you should overlook by any means. Their over/under right now is at 9 wins. I'm gonna smash this. I think they will definitely get at least 10 wins. At least. I think they'll go 10-6. So I think that over, I will take that.
Okay, so I'm pulling another audible here. I originally had them going push like 9 games. I think they're going to go over. I think I've made fun of you about it and in our group chats or whatever, saying that they're the worst team in the division. I think if Deshaun Watson was on the Colts right now, the Colts would be winning 11 or 12 games, but he isn't.
Yeah.
So
or luck,
because
or luck.
Or Andrew Luck. Like if Andrew Luck was on this team, I'd be way more excited. Phillip Rivers, like I thought he was a bum, but I've done some more research on him. I realized he's not as bad. So I'm gonna go over 10 wins here. I really like everything on that team. The only real hole I see is corner. Like I just don't believe in Xavier Rhodes. But other than that, like maybe linebacker, but other than that, there isn't really a huge hole. Like you said, their offensive line is easily like top 3 in the league. And yeah, I like the team. I think the Titans win the division because I just trust that roster more than I trust the Colts. I think there's less holes, but I would think both teams make playoffs in the AFC. That's my prediction. Or I'm not going to go there yet, but both teams are definitely going to be in the playoff hunt.
Yeah, I think I'll have I don't want to spoil it for the next episode, but I think both teams will also be in the playoff hunt. I think the Texans could also be in the playoff hunt. I have them at 7 wins, but like you said, you shouldn't overlook them, and they'll definitely be in the playoff hunt for sure. But yeah, that wraps up all we've done for the past 2 episodes.
Yeah, that pretty much wraps up our over-under show going into the 2020 NFL season. Before we close out, we have 5 days into the NFL. We have 5 days until football. I am extremely hyped. Anything you had to say before we head on them all?
Nothing, man. I'm really excited for the season to start. I'm looking forward to the next episode, especially where we just break down what we think's really going to happen this season and our predictions, such as who's going to win what awards, how we think the playoffs are going to go, who's going to win the Super Bowl, our predictions like that, who's going to take the division. Even though we did a little bit of that here, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Great episode again today. Looking forward to the next one, and I cannot wait for football to start. Football is going to start now, and most of the games will start 1 week from now, but it'll be for the Thursday night game 5 days from now, and that's going to be an exciting game with the Texans versus the Chiefs. And we'll even talk about who we'll take in the week 1 games as well in the next episode. So, looking forward to this week. Very excited.
Yeah, really great podcast episode. I think we gave a pretty good insight into at least what our beliefs are for the AFC. Yep, that is it for me. Thank you for listening. Be safe, stay healthy, do all that fun stuff. And maybe even, record, give the podcast a like on, not a follow. Give the Instagram account, the Fleaflicker Podcast. Thanks for listening and peace out. Bye.